Hey everyone. For years, cartoons, TV, movies, and science programs show us a promised bright future, a future where technology would make life easier, safer, and better. They convince us that progress was always moving forward. Evolution will always improve in us. Today, we are living in this promised future, and the result is a quite opposite. Life is harder, people are exhausted, and societies feel unstable. We are not becoming stronger or wiser, but weaker, distracted, and fragmented. If our present feels this chaotic, then something is wrong with the history we've been taught for years. If history is a story of constant progress, why does the present feel like it is going backward? And if history is truly a story of constant progress, why does the present feels like decline? Before we start, I'm going to show you those images. It captures something important about how fear and linear thinking work today. The story is about a man. His name, or he called himself, Ibu Noah, a self-proclaimed prophet from Ghana, who claimed that God warned him the world would end in a massive flood on December 25th, 2025, which means a couple of days of now. He built boats, compared himself to the biblical Noah, and convinced people to sell their homes and everything, moving near the site of the so-called Ark to survive the coming disaster. When the date passed and nothing happened, anger replaced belief, and one man, feeling deceived, burned one of the boats, only to discover later that it didn't even belong to Abu Noah. Many people will laugh at the story immediately and say it is obviously nonsense. They are right, but the reaction itself misses the point. This is not about intelligence, it's about fear. When fear takes control, thinking becomes flat and linear. People stop questioning, and they accept dramatic narrative without evidence. Well, this is the same mental state produced by constant entertainment, disaster news, apocalyptic production, and fake savers, where logic shut down and belief replaced reasoning. The lesson here is not to mock the people involved, but to understand how easily the human mind can be guided when fear replaced critical thought, and how dangerous that becomes in a world already overloaded with distraction and manipulation. By the way, this guy, Ibu Noah, appeared shortly after promoting the flood prophecy in the news again, this time kind of celebrating the purchase of a luxury car worth about 90,000 USD. So I believe you know from where he got the money to buy this car. Anyway, back to our topic. This presentation focuses on the Phoenicians and the new term of Hyperboreans. It's actually new in the channel, I mean. It's not new in the history. It builds on ancient Irish connection discussed in earlier videos and is inspired by the work of Michael Tsarion of the book that called Irish Origins of Civilization. I want to be clear from the start. I am not a scholar, and you should not take my words as an absolute. Consider this material carefully without judgment, and please try to make your own homework and your own research. Because in the end, what I'm trying to do here is provoking the critical thinking that has been buried inside you. So much of what I will present sits outside mainstream history, even within alternative research circles. Many people find these ideas difficult to accept. Connecting these dots requires patience and critical thinking. And modern society discourages independent thinking. Groupthink dominates, and anyone who steps outside accepted narratives is quickly pushed back into line. Corporations rule political systems, and if corporations can behave like psychopaths, what does that say about the media and the education system they influence? Constant entertainment keeps people in a trance like state. We are surrounded by stimulation from every direction. None of us are taught to master the mind. Our thoughts are scattered and out of control. People suffer from boredom, which is not a lack of activity, but a complete disconnection from purpose and inner drive, the inner sound. Social media overstimulate the brain with constant dopamine, endless scrolling, instant gratification, and artificial reward cycles that weaken attention and destroy the ability to focus deeply. And to this, we have coffee, pornography, unhealthy food, and the result is a population unstable to sustain deep thought, reflection, or philosophical inquiry. We are not trained to question reality. We are not encouraged to think philosophically. And instead of that, the mind is kept busy, distracted, and exhausted. The goal of this presentation is not to convince, but to invite curiosity, to encourage deeper thinking about human origins, cosmology, and ancient history. Today, culture is constantly shaped by what appear to be alternative research, yet much of it functions as a distraction. Television programs like Ancient Aliens present themselves as truth-seeking, but they often redirect attention away from human history and the human capability. And on the top of all of this, the obsession with aliens, green men, and the extraterrestrial narratives has become another powerful form of distraction. And instead of questioning history, consciousness, or human potential, attention is redirected towards outer space fantasies. So, real history is not going to be found on entertainment channels. It requires digging deeper, following the traces down to the rabbit hole. So, let's begin. The suppression of consciousness. When we look at the society today, what do we actually see? Can we honestly say that modern culture understands its own past? In Plato's Timaeus, Egyptian priests told the Greeks that they don't even know where they came from. So, if the Greeks, whom contributed too much in building the Western society minds, were ignorant of their origins, what does that say about us? Ancient knowledge and lost civilization. Manly Hall wrote about the sacred teaching of all ages. Pythagoras taught that mathematics was sacred and demanded mastery of music, astronomy, geometry, and philosophy. Wisdom required discipline and inner development. Communities once existed where knowledge was sharing together. This is what Tartaria, Atlantis, and Proto-Julian societies may have resembled. Today, we see the opposite. Mainstream history claims civilization began in Sumer around 7,000 years ago, but ancient texts like the Vedas speaks of human history stretching back millions of years. They describe advancing technology, flying machines known as Vaymans, and devastating wars. Blood myths exist across cultures. Submerged cities remain unexplained. Michael Cremo has documented extensive evidence for deep human antiquity. In this framework, Atlanta was a highly advanced civilization, not only on the technological side, but spiritually and biologically. After a cataclysm, survivors traveled east and settled in Ireland and northern Spain, once known as Iberia. From there, they spread knowledge to worlds that had fallen into regression. Ignatius Donnelly wrote that these survivors circled the globe, establishing priesthoods and giving alphabets to less developed cultures. He identified Ireland as a central source of arts and science, the Hyperboreans and the Aryan identity. Greek and Roman authors spoke of Hyperboreans and Cimmerians. Hyperboreans were described as peaceful, long-lived, and closely associated with Apollo. They lived beyond the North Wind, at the edge of the unknown world. Later writers turned them into myth. The term Aryan originally referred not to a race, but to a spiritual and cultural class. Ireland itself once called Ariland, and that means land of the noble ones. The Druids were Aryans in this sense, philosophers, astronomers, healers, and guardians of the ancient wisdom. The Sanskrit definition of Ari means noble, valuable, elevated. This was not about domination, it was about knowledge, balance, and mastery of mind and body. Suppression and historical amnesia. According to Conor MacDari, Roman Church and state worked together to suppress independent system of knowledge. Mastery schools were dismantled, philosophical minds were silenced. Druids were among the last to resist Roman control. History was rewritten, language suppressed, Irish cultures was altered. Fictitious authorities were invented and attributed with authorship to legitimize false narrative. This produced historical amnesia. Cults, Phoenicians, and the cover name. The term cult did not appear in Irish identity until the modern era. It was constructed through archaeology, linguistics, and nationalism. Ancient Irish writers never called themselves cults. The true continuity lies with the Hyperboreans. These people lived long lives. They mastered sound, vibration, geometry, and healing. Cathedrals were built as energy centers. After a catastrophe, their descendants spread across the world. Over time, their identity fragmented. One of the names placed over them was the Phoenicians. Phoenicians were master sailors, builders, scientists, and writers. They created alphabets, they built temples, and they preserved megalithic knowledge. According to multiple researchers in the 19th century, Phoenician originated from the west, from Ireland and surrounding region. This explains their advanced capabilities, so they are related to the descendant of Hyperboreans from being traveled to Ireland in that time. Names, identity, and eraser. At this point, we must slow down and examine sources. Civilization did not appear from nothing. What matters now are names, because names decided what is remembered and what disappears. In modern history, Israel, Israelites, and Jews are treated as a single continuous identity. But all the writers questioning this assumption. Conor MacDari argued that the centralized power erased computing knowledge system. He wrote, "It was held by the leaders of the Roman Church and state that all power should be centralized, and any institutions producing independent philosophical thought must be suppressed." Fredrick Haberman argued that what scholars called ancient Hebrew is actually Phoenician, and he wrote, "As our scholars have failed to see the difference between Israel and the Jews, they have completely confused the issue." He also noted that the oldest Hebrew manuscripts date no earlier than 4th century AD. Ignatius Donnelly wrote that advanced civilization existed long before accepted timelines and was destroyed by catastrophe. Michael Tsarion compiled these sources without claiming ownership, simply placing them side by side. Anthropologists and linguists have admitted the alphabet came into the world from the mysterious Indo race known as the Phoenicians. These are not internet myths. They are printed sources, books that you can buy and read before even the internet was existed. The central question. These writers are not constantly discussed. Their words are routinely excluded. Yet the name Phoenicians keep resurfacing wherever alphabet and ancient knowledge emerge. So the question is Phoenician a true identity, or it is just a label placed over something far older? If Hyperborean-descended cultures lived longer and healthy lives, if they cultivated discipline of mind and balance of body, and their societies were shaped by wisdom rather than domination, then the danger lies in the possibility that such a state could be reached again. That possibility is precisely what was erased, because when people remember its true origin, cannot be ruled through fear, debate, or destruction. A society that understands that mind respects the body and organized pattern beyond surface reality does not submit easily to systems built on control. So, history was simplified, timelines were shortened, complex civilizations were reduced to methods, and wisdom was repackaged as a superstition. What remained was not the truth, but a version of a past that produced obedience in the present. If humanity once lived differently, thought differently, and existed with a greater balance, then the future is not a straight line forward. It is a choice between remaining distracted or remembering what we were capable of. And that is where the journey begins, not with a blind belief, but with a true investigation. So it's not only about the answers, it's also about the courage to look deeper and grab the answers for our questions. Thank you so much for the watching, and I hope I can see you soon in another research journey.